Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight. President Trump suggesting China has approved a TikTok deal after a call with China's Xi Jinping. And the White House honoring Charlie Kirk just days before his memorial on Sunday. Mariotso reports from Washington, D.C. Tens of thousands are expected to attend Kirk's memorial service in Arizona, many from out of state. People are gathering at the Turning Point USA headquarters to pay their respects. Jack Bradley is there. Free speech versus hate speech. Where do we draw the line? The First Amendment in the spotlight following Jimmy Kimmel's controversial comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Melina Wisecup has what lawmakers are saying. On Capitol Hill, Democrats reject extending current levels of government funding and threaten to shut down the government. Lawmakers now have less than 2 weeks to find a solution. Luis Martinez brings us the latest. And a federal judge throws out President Trump's defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. The president has 28 days to amend the suit.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here's Tiffany Meyer.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Paul Graney, in for Tiffany Meyer. President Trump has suggested that China has approved a TikTok deal. This as the White House honors Charlie Kirk's legacy before his memorial in Arizona. NTD's Mariotso has more from the White House.
But the TikTok deal is well on its way, as you know, and the investors are getting ready.
President Trump today, after a call with Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping, suggests that China approved a TikTok deal without elaborating on what that approval entails.
TikTok has tremendous value. The United States has that value in its hand because we're the ones that have to approve it.
But some lawmakers have been expressing concerns about the deal over the app's ties with the CCP. Chairman of the House Select Committee on the CCP, John Molnar, warns in a statement this week that the reported deal could allow the CCP to continue controlling TikTok through its algorithm. And the Department of Justice has previously said that the CCP's access to American user data poses a national security threat of, quote, immense depth and scale. Meanwhile, President Trump stresses that the app will be owned by American investors.
We're going to have very good control. We have these are American investors, all of them, and they all love our country. They're all very well-known people.
In his first term, the president called for the app to be banned, but he has since changed course, delaying the ban 4 times, now until December. While details on the deal remain unclear, President Trump says he'll speak to Xi again on the phone and plans to meet him in South Korea at the end of October. The president also says he plans to travel to China early next year and that Xi will come to the U.S. at an unspecified time. Meanwhile, the White House releases a tribute video honoring Charlie Kirk's legacy.
He loved America, but most of all, Charlie loved his children, and he loved me with all of his heart.
Set to the words of Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow and now CEO of Turning Point, speaking for the first time after her husband's assassination. This as Turning Point receives over 60,000 new chapter requests, and President Trump continues to eulogize Kirk.
Yes. No, but he was a great person. Mm-hmm. He really was a great person. I actually said, Charlie, someday I think you have a good chance of being president. I think you will be president, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I think he would have had a great chance. He was very compelling.
President Trump's expected to speak at Charlie Kirk's memorial on Sunday in Arizona, alongside Erica Kirk, Vice President J.D. Vance, and other cabinet members. Reporting from the White House, Mariotso, NTD News.
Mariotso, thank you. And some breaking news just in. President Trump has just signed a proclamation to impose a $100,000 fee for H-1B visas. The White House says the program is being overused. The H-1B work visa is valid for 3 years and can then be renewed for another 3 years. He also signed an order creating a gold card program that would allow people to pay $1 million for a visa. We'll keep you updated on that. And a college student's remarks in class have gone viral. They're also raising eyebrows. Julia Shu, a student at Oberlin College, posted a video online about comments she made in class the day after conservative leader Charlie Kirk was killed.
My teacher said, "I'll give you 5 minutes for hot takes about Charlie Kirk." I was the only person who raised their hand. I said, "I've been saying we need to bring back political assassinations. I don't feel bad, and I don't think that everyone deserves the right to free speech. I think some people should be afraid to express their opinion in public."
Shu is facing heavy criticism for her remarks after posting the video last week. On Thursday, a New York Post article said she apologized for, in her words, tactless comments. Shu's TikTok handle on the video is Comrade Julia. Her post has drawn calls for investigation from many conservative leaders and Chinese pro-democracy activists. Here are some details point to Shu's identity, though it's not confirmed. On her school's blog, she says she's from Cheshire, a small town in Connecticut with fewer than 30,000 residents. Back in 2018, a letter was sent to Cheshire's Education Committee by someone with the same first and last name. The author, reportedly a 7th grader at the time, said she was American. Shu's education timeline matches that of the student who made the controversial comments on Kirk's death. However, NTD has not been able to verify whether they are the same person. Gordon Chang, a veteran China analyst and author, told NTD that if she is a U.S. citizen, the Justice Department should prosecute her for, quote, using an instrumentality of interstate commerce to incite murder.
So this class is literally about revolution in China. All of our readings for this month have been talking about how violent revolution liberated millions of people, it liberated women, and then our reading for that day was specifically about democratic dictatorship, where Mao writes about, yes, people deserve free speech, but there should not be free speech for reactionaries and imperialists and like capitalists and all these people who are enemies of the revolution, because that would reverse the progress that was made.
After the video spread online, she and her school removed many of her works and digital footprints from public view. Screenshots from her blog show the Oberlin student is involved in organizations supporting Free Palestine and radical gender theories. Other Chinese nationals living in the U.S. are also under scrutiny for making inappropriate comments on Kirk's death. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has vowed to revoke visas for foreigners who endorse ideologies against American values. Take a listen.
We shouldn't be bringing people into this country. We should not be giving visas to people who are going to come to the United States and do things like celebrate the murder, the execution, the assassination of a political figure. We should not. And if they're already here, we should be revoking their visa.
Our investigation shows that inside China, state-run media are reporting on Kirk's death in ways that highlight division, chaos, and violence in the U.S. We've also seen a flood of hateful comments on major Chinese social media platforms. We'll continue tracking these online trends and how the Chinese Communist Party is shaping public opinion at home amid tensions with the U.S.
And ahead of Charlie Kirk's planned public memorial in Arizona on Sunday, hundreds of people have been laying flowers at the Turning Point USA headquarters to pay their respects. NTD's Jack Bradley is there, and he joins us now live from Phoenix, Arizona. Jack, what are people telling you there?
Well, we're getting a lot of support out here, Paul. We've seen literally dozens of people file in and out of here within minutes and hours, and we're still seeing fresh flowers laid at this memorial at the headquarters of Turning Point USA, which has been open for over a week now. I'm here with Kathy and Marsu, who are supporters of Charlie Kirk, and I just wanted to get your perspective on who is Charlie Kirk to you?
Charlie Kirk to me was... He was patriotic, he was Christian, he had family values and morals, and he was trying to just have debates with people and help the world become a better place.
Marsu, how about for you? Who is Charlie Kirk to you?
Well, I believe he's a Christian, and I love the fact that he was reaching out to our college kids that so desperately need a leader, because the fact that I feel like a lot of times they get brainwashed, and they're young, so they're between, a child and an adult, and they're learning. And I think he answered a lot of the hard questions that they had that they maybe were not able to ask maybe family members. And I think I love that he answered those questions. He led by example. He's brought people together.
And especially after the shooting, his assassination, we're seeing a lot of people coming together. What was your reaction when you found out about that?
Well, at first I didn't believe it was true. I mean, because I was like, why would somebody assassinate him? Because he, you know, was always respectful to people and he answered questions. Then I was devastated. Then I cried. I was like, oh my, I couldn't believe it. And I'm from Oregon, so he is a great Oregon Duck. And my oldest son went to Oregon. He was an Oregon Duck. He was on the board of directors for a long time. So that just brought it even closer to home. My son was devastated like I was, you know. And I was in Oregon when it happened.
So Kathy, how about for you? What was your reaction when you found out about Charlie Kirk's assassination?
Well, when I found out about Charlie, September 9th was the anniversary of the death of my son. And September 10th was Charlie was assassinated. And when I watched it, I felt like he was my son again. I mean, I've already been crying for my son, and then I've got, you know, somebody else's son died, you know, husband, he's got 2 little children. I was just devastated because I believe in freedom of speech. I grew up, you know, freedom of speech, and there was no reason to assassinate him for his values and morals. I was totally devastated. And then we have September 11th the next day. You know, so every day, but my heart I truly felt God that day, more than I felt him in a really long time, more of a presence in my heart, because I knew that he was going to change a lot of things in the world.
And his legacy still is. I mean, a lot of people say under the circumstances it's unfortunate, but the positive coming from it is that it's bringing people together for the better. So thank you both very much for your perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
And Paul, we're expecting to have lots and lots of people at the event on Sunday over at the State Farm Stadium, which we can expect tens of thousands there. And we have a lot more people filing in through here at this memorial, which has been going on for over a week now, Paul.
Jack, some powerful statements there in Arizona. We know that Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, is going to be taking over as CEO of Turning Point USA. How are his supporters reacting?
Well, his supporters are very much in support of Erica taking the helm of Turning Point USA, all giving their support, but also feeling a lot of sympathy because Charlie left behind a wife and 2 kids, but his message will live on. Take a look at this group of students from Colorado State University at a large vigil yesterday giving their support.
Everyone just has so much sadness towards her and empathy, and I think that all of our thoughts and prayers are going to raise her up and encourage her and allow her to continue to spread Charlie's message. And I think it's going to be even more powerful than Charlie himself at this point. Like, so many people have heard about Charlie that have never heard of him before.
Yeah, we do need people like Erica Kirk to take the throne and keep pushing young conservatives.
I have been very depressed about where our country was going, and now I have a ray of hope. And I see lots and lots of people here that it just does my heart good.
What we're seeing this last week is people losing their jobs for telling blatant lies about people like Charlie Kirk and anyone who supports him. To my understanding, that's exactly what has happened with this Jimmy Kimmel situation and him being taken off the air. But, you know, we as conservatives also support companies and always have, having the right to have their own employment practices and supporting the rights of businesses to refuse service to anyone or take anyone off their platform. That's not a violation of free speech. That's just how the company wants to operate.
A spokesperson from the Department of Homeland Security tells me that they're designating this event on Sunday as a level 1 security event, meaning it's the highest level. We can expect to see SWAT teams, Secret Service, and drones patrolling the area. I also spoke to a spokesperson from the local Glendale, Arizona Police Department, who's told me that they're dispatching all units. And for this kind of a level of event, this is something you would see at a Super Bowl or at a large concert. But in those cases, they normally have over a year to prepare for that. But in this case, only about over a week. And meanwhile, here at Turning Point USA's headquarters, they're reporting a large number, over 60,000 high school and college students reaching out to either start their own chapter at their schools or join one. Paul?
A lot of preparations. Jack Bradley in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you, Jack. And this Sunday, NTD will present a live special coverage of Turning Point USA's memorial service for the late Charlie Kirk, a life of faith and conviction. President Trump and many others are scheduled to speak at the event, so you can join Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer for our pre- and post-memorial coverage starting at 12 p.m. Eastern, only on NTD. And the life of Charlie Kirk is being honored with a resolution passed today by the House of Representatives. The House majority and minority leaders react to 58 Democrats voting no on the resolution. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has the story.
310. The nays are 58. Voting present are 38. The resolution is adopted.
House lawmakers pass a resolution honoring the life of Charlie Kirk, 310 to 58. Democratic lawmakers account for all 58 no votes, as well as 38 present votes. Back in June, the House passed a similar resolution honoring the life of slain Democratic Minnesota State lawmaker Melissa Hortman. The resolution passed unanimously. House Speaker Mike Johnson comments on the no and present votes from Democrats against the resolution honoring Kirk.
There's no excuse. That resolution is written very well. I think there's no partisan language in that either. We're honoring someone who contributed greatly to the free marketplace of ideas and public discourse.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries also comments on the no and present votes.
We issued a statement as it relates to political violence in America. The statement speaks for itself.
But isn't that a bad look if people vote no or present?
Statement speaks for itself. No single member of the House Democratic Caucus, not a single member, condones political violence in America.
And President Donald Trump says this.
Who could vote against that? The condemning, all they're saying, please condemn the assassination of a human being. And they said, no, then we're not going to do that.
Also on Capitol Hill, the Senate on Thursday passed a resolution making October 14th, 2025, a National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk. The resolution passed unanimously.
His life was shaped by his faith and the idea that in America, debate and discussion are crucial to the betterment of our country.
Many Democrats have made comments condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. However, attendance to events honoring Kirk have reportedly been light. Jeffries was asked about Democrat attendance to a recent vigil in Congress honoring Kirk.
There was a vigil last night for Charlie Kirk. We counted only a handful of Democrats being there. Is there a reason for that?
I don't know. I guess you'd have to talk to individual Democrats as to what else was going on and why they were present or why they weren't present.
What about you?
I had a meeting.
Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
And after ABC moved to indefinitely suspend Jimmy Kimmel, top House Democrats launched an investigation, calling it a free speech issue. President Trump celebrated the suspension, and the FCC chairman called Kimmel's comments deliberately misleading. Here's the latest.
Democrats are launching an investigation into ABC's suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's show, calling the move censorship. They say the government played a role in ABC's decision.
I think if we don't, as a Congress, hold people like Brendan Carr accountable and say that this is not acceptable to go pressuring private companies and journalists, you're going to see the administration do more and more of it. So this is about Congress saying, no, you can't go threaten the media or private corporations.
Republicans say Kimmel's suspension was a private corporation's judgment call.
I just said he's entitled under the First Amendment to say what he wants. But on the other hand, I applaud the move of Disney, his corporate parent, to say, we think this is terrible.
The controversial moment came when Kimmel suggested that MAGA was desperately trying to characterize Charlie Kirk's assassin as not one of them, then went on to joke about Trump's reaction to the news of Kirk's death. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr said the comments were deliberately misleading on a serious issue.
Lots and lots of people were upset. It was not a joke. It was not, making fun or pillaring me or the administration or the president. It was appearing to directly mislead the American public about a significant fact of probably one of the most significant political events we've had in a long time. It's really the most significant political assassination we've seen in a long time.
Before Kimmel's suspension, the FCC chairman said of Disney, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Carr said licensed broadcasters have a responsibility to serve the public interest. President Trump has called for revoking ABC and NBC's licenses for acting as an arm of the Democrat Party. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
And a federal judge has thrown out President Trump's $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. It's over its content. The judge called the suit, quote, decidedly improper. U.S. District Judge Stephen Mereday in Florida said Trump's complaint violated civil procedure, requiring a short and plain statement of why he should win. Trump's lawsuit named a book and an article written by the New York Times reporters. They focused on Trump's finances and his starring role in the Apprentice TV program. Trump also cited in the suit an article by Peter Baker last year, headlined for Trump, "A lifetime of scandals heads toward a moment of judgment." Mereday gave Trump 28 days to file an amended complaint of no more than 40 pages. And Congress must pass government funding for the fiscal year 2026 before October 1st. Republicans have proposed to extend current levels of funding, but Democrats have rejected the offer. Now, with the looming shutdown, what are the potential exit ramps for lawmakers? Our Washington correspondent, Luis Eduardo Martinez, has the details.
On this vote, the yeas are 217, the nays are 212. The bill is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Only one Democrat joined with Republicans to extend current levels of government funding and avoid a government shutdown on October 1st.
Republicans know that this partisan, reckless, dirty spending bill is dead on arrival.
House Democratic leadership called on its conference to oppose the continuing resolution, which contained no partisan policy riders. The bill actually keeps government funding levels established by the Biden administration.
A very short 7-week holdover of government funding. We are going to allow more time for the appropriations process to continue. We have been working very hard here to get appropriations back to some semblance of regular order.
Senate Democrats are blaming Republicans for not extending enhanced subsidies to health insurance premiums under the Affordable Care Act that Democrats passed through the Inflation Reduction Act back in 2021. The expiration date of these enhanced subsidies was actually established by Democrats.
Their proposal is status quo. The Americans are not happy. American people are not happy with that status quo. And what our bill says is control rising costs, which American people hate, fix health care, which the Republican big, beautiful bill decimated.
Since becoming the leader of Senate Democrats, Senator Chuck Schumer and his leadership team have supported at least 19 continuing resolutions.
He decided and announced a while back that he was not going to go along for a clean short-term CR. Now remember, he's always voted on these in the past. He's never had a problem with it ever before.
Senate Democrats opposed the House-passed continuing resolution. Congress would need at least 7 Senate Democrats to support the short-term stopgap bill to avoid a shutdown. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
And agency advisors tell the CDC that recommendations for taking the COVID vaccine should be based on shared clinical decision-making rather than age group or other factors. This means the CDC would recommend that people receive a COVID-19 vaccine only after speaking with a healthcare provider. The Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices made the decision unanimously. The CDC's acting director will decide whether to accept the recommendations. And still to come, Russia reportedly penetrates NATO airspace for the 3rd time in recent days. Arian Pazdar has how officials are responding. And in Germany, the trial of 2 alleged Chinese spies is nearing its conclusion. The suspects are accused of leaking hundreds of sensitive EU documents and compiling personal data on 25,000 Chinese dissidents in Europe. David Vives brings us the latest in the case after the break. Welcome back. I'm Paul Graney. NATO member Estonia says 3 Russian fighter jets crossed the border today. This would make it the 3rd time Russia has penetrated NATO airspace in recent days. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has more.
It is clear that Russia is testing how far they can go.
The European Union condemns Russia for allegedly violating the airspace of Estonia, a member of NATO and the EU. Estonia reports that 3 Russian fighter jets entered its airspace without permission and stayed there for a total of 12 minutes on Friday. The EU's foreign policy chief says it's now important to demonstrate strength.
We must show no weakness, because weakness is something that invites Russia to do more, and they are increasingly more dangerous, not only to Ukraine.
The incident comes just days after Russian drones reportedly entered Polish and then Romanian airspace. Both nations are members of NATO and the EU. Estonia has now summoned Russia's top diplomat in the country. Estonia's foreign minister also says that such actions cannot be tolerated and must be met with swift political and economic pressure.
We are now going after these who fuel Russia's war by purchasing oil in breach of the sanctions.
The new sanctions would target Russia's exports of liquefied natural gas, its shadow fleet of oil tankers, and major energy companies that buy from Russia. If approved, the EU would ban gas imports from Russia by January of 2027, 1 year earlier than previously planned. This comes after President Trump repeatedly called on the bloc to stop buying energy from Russia. Friday's proposals must be endorsed by all 27 EU members before they can go into effect.
I now call on member states to quickly endorse these new sanctions. We want Russia to leave the battlefield and come to the negotiation table.
It could take weeks for all members to reach a final decision on Friday's proposals. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
In Germany, the trial of 2 alleged Chinese spies is nearing its conclusion. The suspects are accused of leaking hundreds of sensitive EU documents and compiling personal data on 25,000 Chinese dissidents in Europe. Prosecutors also highlighted the persecution of tens of millions of Falun Gong practitioners in China, linking it to this case. NTD International correspondent David Vives has the details.
The Federal Prosecutor's Office presented its closing statement in the case of Jiang Ji, a German citizen of Chinese origin, and Jia Qi-X, a Chinese national, both accused of working for Beijing's intelligence services. While serving as an aide to AfD politician Maximilian Krah, Jiang Ji allegedly leaked more than 500 sensitive EU and party documents to China and compiled personal data on over 25,000 Chinese dissidents in Europe.
In our view, Jiang Ji is involved in an especially serious case of intelligence activity. This is particularly true because he concentrated his espionage efforts on many different targets. He pursued a broad range of interests on behalf of the intelligence service, military surveillance objectives, namely Leipzig-Ali Airport, Chinese dissidents in Germany, as well as developments in the European Parliament and in the party of the Member of Parliament to whom he was assigned.
The court also discussed on Wednesday a potential violation of an EU resolution protecting Falun Gong practitioners and sanctioning perpetrators in China. Falun Gong, or Falun Dafa, is a spiritual practice combining meditation with moral teachings centered on truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. That was practiced by tens of millions in the 1990s. In 1999, the Chinese Communist Party launched a campaign to eradicate the practice, leading to widespread persecution, imprisonment, torture, and forced organ harvesting. A 2024 EU resolution mentions surveillance of Falun Gong practitioners inside and outside China, which includes the collection of personal data. According to Alain Tong of the French Falun Gong Association, there are many cases showing a repeated pattern of persecution following such data collection.
When it comes to families in China, the family members of these practitioners who are abroad often suffer directly from extreme pressure. The Chinese regime frequently takes relatives hostage and blackmails them, forcing practitioners abroad to return to China. We have learned of many cases where officials arrested family members in China, telling them they had discovered that their relative was practicing Falun Gong and that they had the data. Then, they directly harm these family members and call Falun Gong practitioners abroad, demanding they stop practicing and return to China immediately.
The federal prosecutor's office has called for a 7.5-year prison sentence for Jiang Jie and 2 years and 9 months for Jiang Qi-X over espionage for the Chinese intelligence service. His lawyer, however, considers the sentence excessive, while prosecutors insist it should be enforced immediately due to flight risk and ongoing suspicion of criminal activity. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
And still to come this evening, a campus event that was supposed to feature Charlie Kirk turns into a vigil in his honor. What students and those inspired by Kirk said at the Colorado State University event when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Paul Graney. Charlie Kirk was a defining voice in America. His unwavering faith and steadfast belief of this nation inspired a generation. Inspired them to stand for their convictions. NTD's Steve Lance was joined by Kerry Lake, CEO of the United States Agency for Global Media, along with Charlotte Perez and Malia Shirley, both alumni of Turning Point USA and close friends of Charlie. The panel discussed Charlie Kirk's legacy and his influence on the younger generation when it comes to family and traditional values. Here's some of the highlights from that discussion.
You know, to that point, Kerry, we really encourage any viewer who's just maybe getting to know Charlie, not too sure out there, to really try to watch him in full context, because there's a lot of sound bites out there, but when you watch him in context, that really tells like anything, the true story and the real picture. You know, Malia, Charlie advocated for young people to get married, have children, build a family. We heard Charlotte talking about it as she was saying it. It's just not something that you hear too often, let alone from a young person. How was he empowering the younger generation to really embrace those traditional family values? And did you see this actually resonating with the young folks throughout all the years that you were out with him on those campuses?
Yes, absolutely. I think that one of Charlie's biggest focuses and passions was, as Erica said in her speech last night, was restoring the traditional family and making it a priority in everything that he did, and preaching just how important the family unit is and how that can, you know, secure America for generations to come simply by having a mother and a father who love each other and want to bring up strong, emboldened, Christian, conservative children and just instill those values in their children. And I think more than anything, leading by example, him marrying Erica and just seeing it's palpable to just see how much they love each other. In the way that they spoke about each other, whether it's just in videos or if you were ever together with them in person. I know that, you know, media, whether it be TV shows or songs or whatever the case, can make marriage sound maybe not that great sometimes, especially to the younger generation, saying, oh, well, you need to prioritize your career first, or you need to see what's out there in the world, and you need to find yourself before you can commit to someone and build a family. But I think that Charlie was a living example of when you find someone who has the same values as you do and is a God-fearing Christian, and you put God at the center of your relationship, it draws you both together and you build a beautiful life together. And why would you not want that? Why would you want to do hard things alone? Why would you want to go through life without someone who loves you and supports you unconditionally? And I think that just being a living example between him and Erica, it absolutely encourages younger people my age, to want to do that and want to pursue that. And I know, of course, as many of us have, we met so many important people through Turning Point. I know so many of my friends who met their spouses and have had children because of Turning Point and because of Charlie.
And, you know, my personal experience with Charlie was limited to in front of the camera at Turning Point events. He would be gracious enough to spend a little bit of time with us. And, you know, beyond that, it would be just before the interview, where you really get a sense of the person off camera. And he was always extremely humble, gracious, and happy to do it, despite being having, I'm sure, a lot of pressure with thousands of people there and trying to make sure that this event is going off smoothly. With that said, Charlotte, behind the camera and in front, was Charlie always himself, and what was he like more behind the camera?
Yeah, you know, I think you said it yourself. Every time you met Charlie, he was incredibly humble and gracious. And, you know, Charlie was the same person on and off camera. He is a fighter for our country. He's a fighter for Turning Point, constantly, you know, getting his message across and supporting and encouraging the younger generation to, you know, continue fighting back and pushing back against the radical left, who obviously, you know, want nothing to do with us and they don't want to meet us in the middle. Charlie was an incredible person, one of the most, you know, kind and genuine human beings I've ever met. And his energy, especially during election cycles, was just absolutely profound. He, you know, somehow we're still working overtime. You know, we're in the building 3 days, you know, going on 3 days, no sleep, no food, and yet somehow he still had the energy to be just so ramped up for our country. I think one of the sayings, if you're in the Turning Point family, you know, is that you hate to lose. You love to win or hate to lose. And, you know, I think everybody hates to lose and everyone loves to win. But when you lose, you know, you're kind of, you know, you want to work overtime, you want to do more and you want to do more and you want to make sure that you don't lose again. And I think that passion and that drive that Charlie was constantly instilling in us is why a lot of us are the way we are today. We don't take no for an answer. We work hard. We don't care what time it is. We're going to put in the hours. We're going to make it happen. And we have Charlie to thank for that.
Carrie, I know you're going to have to leave the discussion in a moment, so we just have another minute or so to get your response. What would you say, you know, right off the top of the program in my opening monologue, I talked about the responsibility of the media and social media platforms to make sure that whatever information is being propagated, to put things into context. What would you say right now? There's a lot of commentary on the other side saying both sides need to tone it down and take a step back. What would you say to those people that are perhaps in a way even justifying the horrific event that took place?
Well, naturally they would say that because they're guilty of demonizing an incredible person like Charlie. They've demonized people like President Trump, people who are part of the MAGA movement, wanting to make America great again, a very patriotic, loving movement that touts the Constitution, our founding document, that talks about making sure that our streets are safe, we have our freedoms and liberties intact, and our Constitution and Bill of Rights intact as well. So naturally they would say that because they're guilty of demonizing people, trying to make them non-human so that impressionable groups of people would then attack, which led to the assassination of Charlie, the attempted assassinations of President Trump, and the many attacks that we've seen all over, frankly, on politicians. I mean, Lee Zeldin got stabbed on the campaign trail. We're watching MAGA-type conservatives all across the country, or all across the globe, with assassination attempts or even assassinations, like one of the leaders who was running in Colombia and many other places. It's horrible what's happening, but the violence is coming from the side of the Marxists and the radical left. This is not a violent movement that we're part of. This is a movement that is actually one of the most beautiful, peaceful movements I've ever seen. But we're not going to sit here and take it anymore. We're not going to allow this to continue. They have awoken a sleeping giant. Frankly, it was already awake. But when you saw that mama bear, Erica Kirk, and her speaking last night to the camera after having her husband gunned down, the father of her children taken from us, and she stood up and roared like a lioness, and we are with her 1,000%. There's an army of us surrounding her. We're marching forward. We will be saving our country. We will not be putting up with this kind of violence anymore. Absolutely not. And we are even more firmly with President Trump now that he go in and get the job done and clean up and get rid of these Soros-funded rent-a-mobs. We get rid of the violence on the streets, and we shut down the violence that's coming across our border.
Steve Lance, thank you. And an event that was supposed to feature Charlie Kirk turned into a vigil. A campus event at Colorado State University drew thousands on Thursday to honor Kirk's legacy.
Colorado State University says more than 7,000 people gathered at Canvas Stadium for a Turning Point USA event. The event was originally scheduled to feature Charlie Kirk, but after his assassination in Utah last week, it became a vigil in his honor. The hour-long program included the national anthem.
And the home of the brave.
And speeches from conservative politicians and leaders from nearby Turning Point chapters. Among the speakers was Gabe Saint, a Turning Point chapter president from Wyoming, who spoke about the impact Kirk had.
For so long, conservatives and Christians on college campuses were told to be quiet. But Charlie gave us our voice to stand up for what we believe in, to love America, and to love Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, our King.
Former gubernatorial candidate Heidi Ganahl said Kirk was a warrior for free speech and for crushing what she called the creeping shadow of collectivism.
He was a lion of liberty, a beacon for our youth, and a blaze whose vision for America burns eternal in every heart here tonight.
Colorado State alumna and Daily Wire host Isabel Brown recalled how, as a sophomore, feeling isolated and desperate for connection with other Christian conservatives, she attended a Turning Point USA summit.
And led by an awkward, gangly kid, not much older than I, named Charlie Kirk. From the first moment of that first conference, I knew that I would never be alone in my values again.
She described what Kirk started as a movement sweeping her generation.
There was an army, a movement, a generation by the thousands of students like me who had found a compass and a resolve to fight as hard as we could to give truth a voice on our college campuses and beyond.
On the Senate floor Thursday, Senator Rick Scott called for the passage of his resolution honoring Charlie Kirk by designating October 14th, Kirk's birthday, as a national day of remembrance. The resolution was adopted with unanimous consent.
Is there objection? Without objection. Without objection.
Mr. President,
Scott said we have the opportunity to carry on Kirk's memory by believing in the power of ideas and discussion.
And coming up this evening, Mexico may be a top destination for Americans, but safety risks vary by region. What experts are saying about how to stay safe while visiting popular spots when we return. Welcome back. I'm Paul Graney. Mexico remains a popular destination for American travelers, but officials continue to urge caution in certain areas. Travelers now advised to stay vigilant. NTD's Christina Corona tells us what you need to know before visiting.
Mexico continues to be a top vacation destination for Americans, but safety risks such as crime, kidnapping, and cartel activity can vary by region. Even popular spots like Cabo and Cancun now carry heightened travel warnings. Currently, 17 states, including Oaxaca, Baja California, and Mexico City, are flagged for increased caution. According to the U.S. Department of State, Level 1 means exercise normal precautions, Level 2 means exercise increased caution, Level 3 means reconsider travel, and Level 4 means do not travel. Trisha Villarmino, a travel blogger with PS I'm On My Way, who has visited over 70 countries in the past 17 years, explains what a Level 2 advisory is like.
Level 2 is a yellow light. Look at it as a yellow light. I can go, but I need to be a little bit more cautious, but not too paranoid.
She says the San Diego-Tijuana border is the busiest in the world. It sees the highest volume of cars and pedestrian crossings every day. When asked about the risks of kidnapping and cartel violence in Mexico, Trisha emphasized avoiding any involvement with illegal activity.
Just avoid any involvement with illegal substances, even small amounts, because that can lead to just not legal trouble, but also put you in unnecessary risk.
She says Mexico wants tourists to come.
They want the tourists to come. They want you to come here. They will not do anything to hurt tourism in Mexico. But if you put yourself in that situation, nobody can help you.
Living in Cabo, she says tourists rarely face serious danger, noting most incidents involve locals. And practical advice for Americans wanting to travel to Mexico.
Just use Uber. We have Uber. Do not hail a taxi randomly on the street or talk to a driver that you wouldn't understand. Just use the app. The apps are automated. The apps have records of the drivers.
And for the people who have a lot of doubt.
So go and don't worry. And again, start with the destinations where there are Americans, there are foreign tourists, there are Europeans, so you'll feel more comfortable.
Even popular vacation spots can carry risks, but with few smart precautions, tourists can enjoy Mexico safely. Reporting from the city of El Monte, Christina Corona, NTD News.
Christina Corona, thank you. And that's all for today's news. For around-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Paul Graney. Good night.